Hi, I'm Roy from Roy's Garage. Today I'm going to be working on a 1998 Chevy Tracker. I'm going to show you how to replace the rear steel brake lines that runs right across the rear end. These are the tools that I'm going to be using today to do this job. This is a 1/2 inch drive impact 21mm socket, flat tip screwdriver, 1/2 inch wrench, 10mm wrench, 10mm tubing wrench, 1/4 inch ratchet, 10mm socket, anti-seize, battery terminal cleaner, and a brake tubing flaring kit. This is a Snap-on brand. I tried many other different brands, cheaper brands, but it didn't work out too good. But this is the best Snap-on. Okay, these are the parts that I'm going to be using today to do this job. This is a 3/16 steel brake tubing, 60 inches long, standard fittings. For sure I'm going to use 2, but possible we're going to use 3. This is a union in case I'm going to have to connect the two brake tubings together. I don't know if I'm going to be using this. And this is a quart of .3 brake fluid. Okay, so I'm going to be replacing this brake tubing. This whole brake tubing is all rotten. Okay, and this one too is all rotten. So what happens is when you step the brake, right here you're going to see the brake fluid start shooting out. So I'm going to go right now and try step the brake. I remove the brake tubing, I'm gonna be disconnecting the battery, negative side, and then I'm gonna be with my hood prop, I'm gonna be pushing down the brake pedal about halfway. What that does is it stops the brake fluid from leaking out from the back. So now I'm gonna be pressing this brake pedal about halfway down with my hood prop, and that's going to shut off the brake fluid that's going to the rear. So now I'm going to be removing this steel brake line. So before we do anything, make sure you open up this bleeder screw. Okay, now it's loose. Loosen it up. Now tighten it up. You want to do that first because sometimes these bleeder screws are all rotten. And sometimes this thing actually breaks off. So if you're gonna break it, now is the time to break it, not later. So anyway, we're gonna be removing this steel tubing. So I'm gonna be using my 10mm tubing wrench. So then we're gonna be removing this mount. Removing this guy. Now we're going to be moving this tubing. We're going to be removing these 2 tubings. This guy's all rotten. Okay, so now we're going to be removing this tubing. So I have this 3/16 steel tubing. I'm gonna be bending it to the shape of my old tubing. On a 3/16 tubing, you do not need a pipe bender, a tubing bender. So you can actually bend it with your hand and it won't collapse. If you use something bigger than a 3/16, then you're gonna have to use a tubing bender. That will collapse. But because we're only using with a 3/16, we can just bend it with our hand. So just kind of like try to bend it the best you can, the closest you can to the old tubing. Okay. This guy looks like it's a little bit short. So what we're gonna have to do is I'm gonna cut it over here and I'm gonna put a union on it. And then I'm gonna extend this tube with a longer one. Okay, so I'm gonna be putting a union right around here. So I'm gonna be cutting this tubing with my tubing cutter. So I took this off the other side of the steel tubing. So what I need to do is put this guy on first. Now I'm going to make a double flare. Okay, so I'm going to be making this double flare. So stick the tubing in this clamp, and then with the adapter you're gonna have to make it stick it up. There's like a little step in the adapter. It's hard to see, but there's a little step in the adapter. Make sure this pipe is level with that step, and then clamp it. So I'm gonna clamp this guy really tight. You don't want this thing to slip. Then I'm gonna put my adapter on. It won't fit. So what I need to do is I'm gonna have to clean the hole. This clamp on, and just tighten it up all the way until it bottoms down. Okay. What it did was it folded the tubing over. So now I'm going to push it down. And that is how you make a double flare. So this is the one that I just bent. This is the new tubing that we're going to be extending. So I'm going to be using this union to connect it. So now I'm going to be tightening up the union. Okay, so now we're going to be bending the rest of the tubing. Something like that. So I'm going to be cutting it maybe around here someplace, and I'm going to make me a double flare. Okay, with my new tubing, I'm going to be fabricating another tubing. Okay, so I fabricated 2 brake tubings, just like the old one. So now what we're going to do is we're going to be transferring these mounts to the new tubing. Okay, so open up these mounts, just transfer it to the new hose. Yeah, something like that. Okay, now we're going to be installing the brake tubing. So you don't want to make it real tight yet, just kind of snug it and back it off a little so this thing can move. Okay. Okay, so now we're going to be securing the brake lines to the rear end. So I'm going to be putting some anti-seize on my screws. And now you can tighten everything up. All these mounts. And then you can tighten up the line that goes to the wheel cylinders. And you gotta just kind of like, if the line is touching, like this one is touching the shock absorber, all you gotta do is just bend it a little. You gotta just bend it away. So now I'm going to be filling up the brake master cylinder with brake fluid. Put the screen back on. Put the cover on. So now I'm going to be releasing my hood prop. So what I'm going to be opening up this bleeder screw. Just open it up. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to let the gravity make the fluid come out. So you just got to wait a while. Trying to get all the air out of this brake tubing. It's a slow process, but it's easier to do it this way first, gravity bleed it. Okay, so right now you see the brake fluid coming out. So most of the air came out of the system, but I'm pretty sure there's a little bit more air in here. So what we need to do is lock up the bleeder screw. So what I'm going to do is start up the engine. First I'm going to connect the battery, then I'm going to start up the engine, press down my brake pedal about halfway with my hood prop, and then open up the bleeder screw to get whatever excess air out. So now I'm going to be cleaning the battery terminals, the battery side and the car side. So I'm going to start up the car. We're pumping the brake pedal. Make sure we got height. guy got plenty height because most of the air came out. So what I'm gonna do is, with my hood prop, I'm gonna apply pressure from the brake pedal to the seat. Now I'm gonna open up the passenger side bleeder screw to make sure there's no air. I'll do it one more time. So I'm going to be shooting water on all my connections because brake fluid is water soluble. Over here. So now I'm going to blow out the fittings with air. Okay, so I'm going to start up the car. I'm going to apply pressure with my hood prop, and I'm going to check out all my fittings, make sure there's no leaks. Looks like it's all dry. This guy looks all dry. That looks good. So I'm gonna be putting on the wheels and topping off my master cylinder and road test. So I put the tires on. I topped off the brake fluid. I road tested the vehicle. Everything feels good. Another job well done. If this is the first time watching my video, please subscribe, give me a thumbs up, and I see you in the next video. Aloha.